All right, it's 5:01, and we'll call this meeting to order. This is Ways and Means Committee on Wednesday, November 17th. I'd like to acknowledge that the press and the public have been duly notified of the meeting in accordance with the Freedom of Information Act. Nicole, you want to do roll call so we can confirm quorum?
Absolutely. Councilmember Smith. Here. Councilmember Bell.
Here.
Councilmember Buchanan. Councilmember Ward.
Here.
Councilmember Moy.
Here.
Councilmember Streetman.
Here.
Councilmember Popson.
Here.
Mayor Carroll.
Here.
Councilmember Pounds.
Here.
You have a quorum.
Thank you. Next item is approval of previous meetings minutes from October 19th, 21st, 21.
Second.
Thank you. Any changes, additions? Nicole?
Councilmember Smith.
Aye.
Councilmember Bell.
Aye.
Councilmember Ward.
Aye.
Councilmember Moy.
Aye.
Councilmember Streetman.
Aye.
Councilmember Popson.
Aye.
Mayor Carroll.
Aye.
Councilmember Pounds.
Aye.
All in favor?
Thank you. Citizens' comments. We do not have any citizens' comments.
No, sir.
Staff comments? So we'll move on into the financial statements. This is part of your package. Amy, you've got this in the package for Ms. Suggs, please. So, take it away.
All right, thank you. So we have October statements to review. A third of the way through the fiscal year. That was crazy, isn't it? Year-to-date total revenues are $6 million. That's across all funds. And total expenditures are about 4.5 million. Regarding the general fund only, year-to-date revenues collected are $2,220,000. This is slightly below the 2.3 million year-to-date from last year this time. The factors at play here are mainly that rental license issue that we've talked about several times. It's only a 50% rental license renewal, but we'll have a second renewal during the fiscal year. Also, for some reason, the state payments that come from the treasurer's office that we normally receive by the end of October, we haven't seen yet. That would include the local option sales tax, state accommodations tax, and the aid to subdivisions payment. I've reached out to I contacted the Department of Revenue, because what normally happens for a tax, the Department of Revenue calculates the amount and then they send it to the treasurer's office and they cut the check. She said, we sent it when we were supposed to. I don't know why they haven't cut the check yet, but I'm not too worried. We're only about halfway through November. So it's not even a month late yet. I'm sure the state is good for it. Moving on, a couple of things I wanted to point out. Expenditures are running about 5% ahead of the prior year, but well within budget. Business licenses and building permit revenues are 27% and 68% above October 2020 respectively. Just robust economic and building activity going on. I reported last month, but I'll repeat it. On October 1st, the city received $1,085,300. That's 50% of the funds coming to the city from the American Rescue Plan. Those funds were deposited in the capital projects fund as grant revenue. The city has 28.8 million in cash deposits. 4.7 million of this is unspent bond proceeds, and 10 million is restricted for tourism related expenditures or beach preservation. Quickly going through the tourism schedules, the municipal accommodations fee. We received a payment since this schedule was printed. The October payment was $124,372. Not quite as high as last year, but very close. But the bottom line is we're 50% ahead of last year and the two previous years. So it's accommodations are doing very well. Next page, state accommodations tax. As I mentioned, we haven't received that quarterly payment yet, but I would expect it to be very favorable. And then good news, and this also, we didn't receive this payment until this week, but we received a $300,000 check from the county. It was actually 301,714. And I actually had to call and find out what it was for because it was weird to get it.
Don't ask.
Just cash it.
Yeah. And turns out, this is the county pass-through money. So the new agreement that the county, that we entered into with the county specifies a quarterly payment. We were used to a biannual payment. And this is equal to 20% of their collections for the first quarter of the fiscal year. So that should be, I would expect that we would collect more in a tax pass-through from the county than we have ever done before under this new agreement.
So,
Go ahead.
yeah, just quickly, annualized, or what have we collected in the past compared to looking at this number as, and I know it's not going to be linear.
Yeah, so
Or
last
maybe
year
not.
it was 508,000, which was really just a repeat of FY19. The biggest year in recent memory, and I think probably ever, that we've ever received was 520,000.
And we got 303 in one quarter.
It is the biggest, one of the biggest quarters of the year, but still.
Yeah, and our budget number is about 275.
So, Mayor, can we claim credit for that?
Sure, you probably will.
They come to see us.
I mean, and again, I've said this before, this is not money that the county is legally obligated to pass through to the city. And the contract makes that very clear. So they can, quit at any time. But
So the moral of the story is do not ever call them and ask them about it. Just cash it, put it in the bank.
Yeah.
okay.
No questions asked.
Yeah.
All right, hospitality tax, another strong October month compared to prior years. This revenue stream is 117% ahead of where we were last year, but we were in the midst of serious COVID shutdowns last year. But 30% ahead of FY20 and FY19 pre-COVID.
So that has nothing to do with it. We like to drink.
New restaurants too. Beach preservation fee, that's just a repeat of muni A tax. Local option sales tax, no new information to report because we just haven't received the payment yet. Drainage worksheet. If there aren't any questions on the financials.
I have one, David. On the ARP, the other 50%, do we have any idea when that would be dispersed?
I do not.
Okay, so we don't know if that would be in this fiscal year before we close that out or in the next.
I think it was Mayish, so
Okay.
it could hit this fiscal year.
Right, okay.
I hope it does, because otherwise we'll have to have single audits in 2 consecutive years.
Right. Thank
Okay. Drainage, I don't think there's a lot to talk about here. We had the October 31st payment, pay app 7 to Gulfstream for about $63,000. And there were also some engineering and design contract administration or construction administration type costs from Thomas and Hutton.
So just a reminder, the budget included for the small projects, the budget included $500,000. You all recall that the contract for that work was around $621,000. And the decision at the time was made that we were going to take the overage from our NPDES fund. A couple years ago, council increased it from 48 to 72 to have more money in that fund balance for drainage projects. So we'll be making the accounting and requesting that of the county so that we can make ourselves whole, if you will, on that project.
Okay. Marina dock replacement and bulkhead recoding. No additional pay apps have been processed since last month. Some ATM construction admin costs happened in October. And then the final schedule I have is the legal expenses FY 20 and year-to-date FY 22. So we're significantly less than FY 22.
So
Questions? Comments? We'll keep moving then on to item 5, capital projects report, also in your packet. Desiree?
All right, so let's start with the Marina restaurant renovation. Just a couple of building updates. The siding has been completed. The roof installation was scheduled to begin last week, as well as the AC units were going to be craned into the top of the building. Also last week, sprinkler and HVAC, I'm sorry, no, that is this week.
Right.
It is the 17th. This week. Lot of activity this week, y'all. Spray foam, about 70% complete. Sprinkler and HVAC ductwork was also going to be starting this week, which will allow them to complete the work on the ceiling. The kitchen wall covering installation is in process, and there have been ongoing discussions between the city and Brian Berrigan and the restaurant tenants on the location of the dumpster area. There is a common area at the end of 41st Avenue. You may remember from the exhibits when we executed the lease for the restaurant that was identified as a potential area for them to consolidate their dumpsters and the garbage. So Douglas held a meeting with them this week and it went well. So we're just hoping to facilitate that. So none of them have to have their own dumpster area in their designated spots. The dock improvements that you all, I reported having started last month, those have been complete. I included several pictures of both the building and the dock before and after there. So that's been going, the work has been moving along pretty well. For the Marina dock rehabilitation, the new schedule that I presented to you all last month hasn't changed dramatically or at all as of right now. There's still a pending issue at the restaurant dock with the freeboard around the transformer area. They're expecting an additional load of floats that are going to be installed. And that's expected to arrive in the next few weeks. So once they're on site, they're going to be installing that on the restaurant dock. We're in the process of evaluating the timing of the potable water hookup for the charter docks. The docks, the original contract that we had the utility portion for charter docks and fuel docks to happen at the same time. So we can do that and have the portable water hookup for charter docks to happen when the fuel docks are installed in January. If we want to go ahead and start that process for charter docks, it would be approximately $10,000. We're hoping that the potable water, we get the permit from DHEC on the restaurant on the face dock. We're hoping to get that this week, and that will allow maybe the vessels that require water that operate on the charter docks to have access to potable water on that other side. And we don't have to go into the expense of having the utility folks come in at 2 different times and just do it when the last section of docks are installed. So we're in the process of coordinating all that. There are 2 additional loads that Salmon Dredging is waiting on from Structure Marine. The first load includes the remaining parts of the fuel docks and the angle bracket that we talked about last month at the corner of the ADA gangway parallel to the boat ramp. There's a triangular shaped area there that's coming on the first load. That's en route because it's an oversized truck. They can't travel at night or on weekends. So that limits their ability, or I guess makes it a longer trip, if you will. Then the second load is expected to be shipped next week.
Are the is the bracket, those loads, are those coming from Canada?
Yes.
Oh, okay, so that's what's taking so long.
Yeah, they're Canadian. All right, we'll go forward with phase 3. We're so happy to let you all know that we received 2 bids for the construction of the 30th and the 36th Outfall project. The lowest bid, which is the one that's being recommended later on your agenda for action, is with Quality Enterprises. They are the same company that completed the water line project on Sullivan's Island in Mount Pleasant over the summer. So they've been, the engineers have vetted them, looked at their packet, their references, and are recommending these folks to do the work. And the numbers are very, very good. They're not as high as they're high than originally we anticipated, but still within reason with the monies that we have budgeted and borrowed for this work. So our plan is to issue a notice to proceed for December 1st, but knowing that they wouldn't really be on site until after the holidays. But that still works within the schedule that we had discussed earlier of starting in the winter and being done by next August.
I think I'm remembering correctly. This is the same number that we were worried about potentially having 100% increase due to the delays. So in essence, I think we're probably $1 million higher instead of a doubling. Is that correct?
Pretty much, yeah.
Okay.
Rough numbers.
Much more explainable than doubling.
Yeah, do the numbers we see here, Quality Enterprise and Gulfstream, that includes the contingency also, or is that exclusive of the 15% contingency?
It does not. We will
Okay.
add a
This is
contingency
just this
to
is the
that.
bid itself without the contingency
That's
being
correct.
added.
The contingency, we will add it and we will hold it.
Okay.
Mr. Chairman, just a little housekeeping. So in the letter, Thomas and Hutton, they talk about Quality Enterprise securing a performance bond, payment bond. But I didn't see it in their items listed, breakdown of mobilization and all that stuff. So I'm assuming that would be in the contract, the requirement of a performance bond in the contract.
It is.
Wonderful.
That is correct.
Okay. Thank you.
Thank you. All right. In terms of 41st Avenue and Waterway, just to report that this week on the 19th, we will submit the 3rd grant application that we've been working on for federal funds for that project. We're requesting a 70% match. All right, the small internal projects, all portions of the projects have been completed, and the final walkthrough is being scheduled as we speak. So we're very happy to get that project wrapped up. That is all I have.
Other questions, comments?
I've had a lot of comments from the public about how well it performed. These small internal projects in their neighborhoods.
They're not that small.
I know.
Relatively, yeah.
When
Comparatively.
you look at money.
Big
Good.
impact.
Good comment, Mayor. Thank you. All right, Amy, if we go to the slides that we had, our next item on the agenda is our one item of old business, consideration and approval of wage and compensation adjustments effective 1/1/22. You recall the last few months we have spent laying the groundwork and the foundation work, and had Evergreen here last month to talk about the methodology and the research they had done, the other municipalities they had looked at for coming up with our new wage and comp philosophy and salary ranges and such. So the slides that just got handed out to council are now on the screen for anybody watching at home. So just wanted to levelize again, kind of where we've been and what we've done. So we looked at, I think we were on version 8.4 or 5 by the time we finished picking the path. And you recall last time, we talked about the price points and how we were going to pay for them. So tonight we're really here to talk about implementing the range or the option that we've chosen. So what we've picked is, you'll see the first bullet there, for general employees, a range penetration capped at midpoint with a 7.5% cap and a minimum of 3%. So that's only applicable to the general staff. Police and fire, we're implementing a step plan. We talked about this in some detail last month, so I'm not spending a lot of time on it unless you want to. So Susan, I think you asked this question last month. So our starting wages, once all the dust is settling for public safety staff, will be in the top tier, meaning the highest compared to other municipalities in the low country. I think the only municipality higher than us for fire is Hilton Head. Otherwise, we will have the top starting salary at the moment against any municipality in the low country. So wanting to lead that path, and we have done that,
That's
including CDL drivers. Thank
that's a
you.
broad definition of low country with Hilton Head. You're stretching all the way down.
They
I
would
mean, I
probably
know they
appreciate
like
that.
to think of themselves as the low country.
They are low.
They are.
That's true.
So with this path, 98% of our current employees will be receiving some type of wage adjustment, and that average adjustment will be 5.87%. With the highest going to our public safety staff per one of our original tenets of heading down this path. You recall last month, we talked with Evergreen about one of the things that also needs to be looked at is our leave policy. We're quite behind on how people accrue paid time off, so we'll take care of that in the first of the new year, and that'll be a fairly easy fix, in my opinion. Next slide, Amy. So again, we talked about last month paying for this in fiscal 22 with what we already have in the budget. With our savings due also to our current vacancies, we're fine from a budget and coverage standpoint. And again, it's effective 1/1/22, so it's only 6 months worth of effect on our budget. Implementation for fiscal 23 and beyond range between 250 and 300,000. You recall last month we were within that range mostly, and we paused for a month to fold in the Mount Pleasant data that had just come out literally, I think, at the last Ways and Means meeting. So that did affect our numbers a little bit. So this is kind of the range of where we're sitting, and consistent with what we talked about last month from a funding option standpoint. We'll factor in a vacancy rate, which we haven't done in the past, which will yield us about $100,000 roughly in annual savings. And then we'll increase transfers in from tourism funds to the general fund to cover other eligible personnel expenses, which will save us about 100 or give us about 170,000. So with what we already have in the budget and with these two items, we should be fine for future years as far as we run the analysis. So let me stop right there for a moment before we go any further. Randy.
Just to make a comment, one of the personnel committee conversations that I think everybody needs to be aware of, we never factor in the loss factor of things like police being trained, I think 6 months academy, the tenure that they have to remain before they can be poached into other communities. And one of the things we were looking at in setting this competitively high was retention and ensuring that if you're leading, the last reason people are going to leave is money. I don't personally believe people generally leave for money, but it's always a factor. And, the intention of the personnel committee was to address that factor, because I know when I first got on council, it's very disheartening to watch officers get through the training program, stick around for a year and go, well, you know what, I'm out of here. So I don't know how to account for that in terms of a number, but it's huge in the mindset and the process, and talking to both police and fire chiefs, and how we address retention of people after we've trained them. Thank you.
Other questions or comments before we look at a very busy financial page? Susan.
I appreciate all the work that's gone into this, and I'm very happy to see us hitting the top of the field in terms of pay for police and fire. And I think we need to make the case that we not only want to stay competitive with other departments in the area, but we need to think about retaining people in the profession and being a leader in that, because universally, I think we're losing some of our public servants. It's a high demand job, and we need to make sure that we're doing what we can for them and keeping them
And to your point, going on all over the country,
Mhm.
for sure, yeah.
So thank you. And I hope that, my only other hope is that we just continue to stay competitive and don't fall behind, that we're the leader, not the one that's catching up.
Yeah, and to your point, Susan, it has been a lot of work, and Evergreen was a really good partner. But between Desiree, Debbie, and Janice, it has been a lot of hours to get us to this point, and Personnel Committee, you guys are well familiar with the effort that's been there. Rusty?
Yeah, you may have covered this already, or well, maybe I missed it, but what is the vacancy rate that we're assuming?
So we're going to be about a 92% staffing rate. So 8%.
Historically, is that pretty much where we fall?
It's pretty conservative.
Yeah.
And I mean, this year, yeah,
Right.
we're definitely worse than that.
Well, with this new plan, we may have a lower vacancy rate.
That would be fantastic.
It would, wouldn't
I'd
it?
be happy to have us struggle with the budget
Right.
for that purpose, quite
Yeah.
honestly.
Thank you.
Mayor, Jim?
I'm just looking at the small back there, public safety, not like that.
So Amy, if you go to the next slide real quick, this is really high level of prior years and future years and the effect on our budget. So we've tried to keep it, so to Desiree's point, this is version 8.1 on the right-hand side of what we finally settled on. So you can see the forecast for 22 out through 26. You can see Debbie's highlighted in yellow where we have shortages or overages from a forecast standpoint. And we just talked about how we're going to cover that. So let me just let you digest that for a moment and see if you have any questions. There's a lot of numbers I know, and really the only budget number we have sitting out there is fiscal 22. So that's really the most critical one. The rest of them are all forecast at this point that we'll have a budget session coming up shortly. So again, I feel good about the analysis that's been done with Evergreen, the look at the municipalities that they looked at for us to do bogeys off of. We've got good ranges for our new salary philosophy. Assuming we approve this tonight, Evergreen will be able to kind of wrap up the package, if you will, and get it back to us with regard to the whole compensation study. And we'll, get the new council up to speed on that in January, just to let them see where we've been. It'll be effective 1/1 of 22, so it'll already be in place by the time when we have our first council meeting. But I do feel good, about how we're paying for this personally. I know you can kind of make the numbers do whatever you want them to do, using a vacancy rate, not using some more tourism money or not. But to me, it's prudent on what we've decided to do from a funding standpoint. I think it's prudent from what we're trying to do from a retention standpoint. I think I want to nail down the leave part next year early and make sure we kind of take that off the table as an issue, if it is an issue for anybody. And again, I think that's an easy fix. But again, you guys know we have been working on this for a long time, and there's been a lot of effort put into this, and I feel good about the thought process and about financially how we're going to get there. So I'll just stop there with any other questions or thoughts or comments, or Debbie.
One quick thought, Mr. Chairman.
Yes.
Based on what I see in the real estate industry and looking at the number of houses being built, looking at advanced reservations, I think you're going to be pretty good for 22.
Well, and then when I see the first check we get, on the pass-through A-tax, wow, boy, just
So
Fingers crossed.
Are we looking at a motion here to,
motion away.
I will make a motion that we approve the plan as recommended.
So
Other discussion or questions, comments?
I want to say thank you on behalf of the staff. I think we really appreciate you all embracing this process and hopefully setting up a comprehensive philosophy moving forward that takes the guessing away. And I think it really reflects how much you all admire and how much you expect also of the city staff. So just thank you.
Thank you all.
Yeah, everyone deserves it.
Nicole?
Councilmember Smith,
I,
Councilmember Bell,
Aye.
Councilmember Ward,
Aye.
Councilmember Moy,
Aye.
Councilmember Streetman,
Aye.
Councilmember Popson,
Aye.
Mayor Carroll,
Aye.
Councilmember Pounds.
Aye.
All in favor?
Thank you. Thank you all for the time and effort. We debated also quite a bit of hours around, what to show and how to show and how much detail do you want, how much do you not want. So thank you for trusting us down the process. It'll be moving forward. Janice has already started from an implementation standpoint, so those conversations with employees will start happening relatively quickly. Holidays may shift us a little bit. But this is a great message for our staff, and thank you guys for your support around this personnel committee. John, particularly, thank you all for pushing this to the finish line. New business items. A is consideration of purchase of one Ford F-150 police responder in an amount not to exceed $44,000. You can see where that's budgeted for there. So we can have a motion and a second. We can have some conversation.
Motion to approve.
Second.
Thank you. Desiree, anything you want to report here?
So just so for the record, the FY22 budget includes a replacement of 3 SUVs for the police department. 2 of them have already been approved by council. One of the 3 SUVs, the police department has requested to replace with a pickup truck. That is this pickup truck. We talked about in public safety how prices are a little bit higher than we anticipated, about $2,000. So we're giving them a little bit of a buffer. But I think we should be fairly good with what we have. So this is just a replacement of a current SUV with a pickup truck.
Councilmember Smith.
Aye.
Councilmember Bell.
Aye.
Councilmember Ward.
Aye.
Councilmember Moy.
Aye.
Councilmember Streetman.
Aye.
Councilmember Popson.
Aye.
Mayor Carroll.
Aye.
Councilmember Pounds.
Aye.
All in favor?
Item B is consideration of purchase of a Polaris GM low-speed vehicle in an amount of not to exceed $19,000. Again, you can see where that's budgeted for.
So moved.
Thank you.
Second.
Questions, comments?
Okay, same thing, it's budgeted. This is going to be a different type of Polaris, I believe, that what we've used in the past. We think it'll work better with the focus that we want to have on the beach, particularly enforcing out there. So we have $17,000 included in the FY22 budget, giving them a buffer of about $2,000 with increased costs. But I think that the last number that I saw was right under 17,000. So we should be in good shape there. Recommended by the Public Safety Committee as well.
Councilmember Smith.
Aye.
Councilmember Bell.
Aye.
Councilmember Ward.
Aye.
Councilmember Moy.
Aye.
Councilmember Streetman.
Aye.
Councilmember Popson.
Aye.
Mayor Carroll.
Aye.
Councilmember Pounds.
Aye.
All in favor?
Thank you. Item C is consideration of replacement of 2010 Ford F-150 and 2008 Ford F-250 in an amount not to exceed $44,000 per vehicle. And again, you can see where those are itemized out of our budget. So we can have a motion and a second.
So moved.
Second.
Thank you.
These 2 vehicles, again, are budgeted in FY22. One will be replacing former Chief Graham's truck from 2008, knowing that we'll have that position filled very soon when I get that approved. And then the other one is currently the truck that's being used by the deputy chief, which was, it's a 2010 Ford F-50. We are replacing the Ford F-250 with a Ford F-150. So we'll have 2 F-150. Also recommended by the Public Safety.
Nicole?
Councilmember Smith.
Aye.
Councilmember Bell.
Aye.
Councilmember Moy.
Aye.
Councilmember Ward.
Aye.
I did you guys backwards. Sorry. Councilmember Streetman.
Aye. They're nimble over here.
All right, so what are you gonna call me?
Trying to read. Councilmember Popson.
Aye.
Wait until next month, but I'm still calling him Councilmember Pounds. Mayor Carroll.
Aye.
Councilmember Pounds.
Aye.
All in favor?
Thank you. Rusty, did you vote on that?
I did.
Okay.
She even called my name correctly.
Okay,
Thank you.
in the right order. Item D, also in your package, consideration of approval of a contract to Quality Enterprises in the amount of $2.27 million for the construction of Phase 3 Outfalls at 30th and 36th Avenue. And again, you can see the budgeted item there. A motion and a
I'll
second.
make a motion.
Thank you.
Second.
Thank you. John?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Earlier in the presentation, City Administrator Fregoso mentioned that quality was also the contractors working on the project with Mount Pleasant and Sullivan's Island. Have we spoken to them and heard about how they were with budget, how they were with timing, how they were with change orders?
I have not. That's the work that Thomas and Hutton was doing as part of their recommendation. Whether they asked those specific questions, I don't know, but that's something that we can certainly make sure we do before executing the contract.
Okay, yeah, and I guess the follow-up to that, or maybe what I should have started with is, whenever you get two bids that are significantly different in value, you always want to ask, can you give a high-level, quick summary? Why was one 3 million and one 2.2? Best guess.
Well,
Well, a lot of the bid specifications have been reviewed, and the engineer did include specific manufacturers, and those have been reviewed. So maybe just labor, frankly. I don't think that the Gulfstream will really say why their bid is
Sure, but-
700,000 over.
I'll just offer when this came up at committee, Douglas was, we were asking him some questions and asked him specifically, are there any red flags based on the difference? And he said no, that they checked through it and did not see reason for concern.
Mayor.
Yeah, in the same line of thinking, I look at these prices and I know Douglas and I know Thomas and Hutton looked at these as apples to apples. There's no real changes in there, so I'm glad that they did that.
And that we have Thomas and Hutton from an
Yes.
oversight standpoint. Rusty and then Randy.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Chair. When we discussed this in Public Works and got into the detail, as Councilmember Smith said, I mean, there were a lot of questions answered at that point too, but in reading all the materials that we got in regards to quality engineering, it looked like from the charts that I saw that the projects that they had listed that they had completed fairly recently were all either right on budget, slightly under budget, and there were one or two that was slightly over budget. So it didn't look like anything that really stood out as being way over or way under. It looked pretty consistent to me. And from what I saw, and also looking at their credentials and background, it looks like they've done a lot of big projects all over the Southeast and really all over the country. So.
Randy.
Since this council's become experts at contingency, how much contingency will we apply to this?
Typically, we'll add a 20% contingency that we'll
So
manage.
interestingly, even with 20%, we'll be below the other bid.
Yeah, Thomas and Hutton, you can see in the package, they were suggesting 15%. But just given our experience in the last year or two, Kevin, I'd be interested in your comment. I mean, I think 20% is probably reasonable.
Yeah, it's usually anywhere from 10 to 15 to 20%. It's just whatever we want to do. And one other comment too, Gulfstream's very, very busy these days. So when a company's busy like that, they might throw out a high number. If they get it, they get it. If they don't, move on. So that could be another reason why you've got a spread that we have.
The low bid for Quality Enterprises is right on point with the revised budget that we got from Thomas and Hutton earlier this year. So that was another, gauge that we used to measure how reasonable this one would be.
Nicole?
Councilmember Smith,
Aye.
Councilmember Bell,
Aye.
Councilmember Ward. Yes, sir. Councilmember Moy,
Aye.
Councilmember Streetman,
Aye.
Councilmember Popson.
Aye.
Mayor Carroll.
Aye.
Councilmember Pounds.
Aye.
All in favor.
Thank you. Last item under new business, item E, discussion and consideration of providing city cell phones to all council members. We have a motion and a second. We can get into some conversations. Thank you,
Second.
Mayor. Thank you. So this has come up a number of times. I think, Mayor, you brought it up originally. Some of the new council members have brought it up. You have seen some of the Freedom of Information Act requests we've had this year. I'm hopeful this will make it easier on our staff from a delivery standpoint of what's needed when those requests come in. We'll try it for a year, see what happens. We're looking at a cost staff has gotten, talked to our provider, and I think we're down to 3 phones and $35 a month per line. So $350-ish a month that we would have for this expense. So not a huge number. I think, again, I'd say, let's try it. My suggestion would be, let's try it for a year and see what happens. See if it does make FOIA request easier. See if it does kind of improve our, behavior, but just our style and our way of communicating by having, kind of a constant reminder in front of you that you're communicating on behalf of the city when you're using that particular phone. So that would be my recommendation, but. Yeah,
I'll just make one quick
Yep.
comment. When you only have a cell phone as your emergency device, your home device, your everything device, and a FOIA request comes in and you're asked to turn over that device, which is what we faced, it is not practical to not have counsel have a separate device and still be compliant to the law. So, as an outgoing council member with no vested interest in this going forward, you absolutely need to do this.
John,
I was going to make a comment that I believe we just did an analysis of how other communities kind of treat council members. And I think we are fairly unique in terms of not providing that cell phone. And I'm looking at a nodding city administrator that we're one of the only communities that doesn't do it. And for the reasons I think that you and Councilmember Bell have stated, it's somewhat obvious.
so we're unique, John. That's a given.
There's no
That's a
place.
fact. Yes, sir.
This past year, looking at our legal expenses from 280 to 368,000. And based on my lawyer's advice, I would say this is the smartest thing we could be doing. It cleans it up and it makes it a lot easier for these FOIA requests.
Thank you. Anybody else? Nicole?
Councilmember Smith,
Aye.
Councilmember Bell.
Aye.
Councilmember Ward,
Aye.
Councilmember Moy,
Aye.
Councilmember Streetman,
Aye.
Councilmember Popson,
Aye.
Mayor Carroll.
Aye.
Councilmember Pounds.
Aye.
All in favor.
Thank you. Miscellaneous business for some of us. Next meeting is Tuesday, January 18th at 6 p.m. Any other items, questions, comments, observations?
Good luck with that.
Motion,
Motion to adjourn.
Second.
second, all in
Just said
favor?
motion to adjourn.